Good evening, you're watching NTV Tonight, the headlines.
Tonight, former youth PS Lilian Omolo and 29 co-accused plead not guilty to charges in 167 million shilling scam case. Also tonight, government revokes appointment of Jared Kwanga 3 days after appointing the graft suspect to a state job. Plus, Jubilee MPs plan to kick Moses Kuria out of House committees.
He is not a special member. He will be treated like any other member.
Kuria says he remains unbowed. And from money laundering claims to fake taxman stamps and more. Questions over billionaire Humphrey Ndegwa's mega fortune.
NTV Tonight with Olive Burrows.
Pleased you could join me. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Tieno. And remember, you can watch this bulletin live on ntv.co.ke/live or using the NTV Kenya handle on Facebook and Twitter, which you can also use to share your thoughts. 30 suspects face 54 counts related to conspiracy and corruption. That's the magnitude of the National Youth Service Fund's Theft Cluster 3 case, which also involves former Youth Affairs and Gender Principal Secretary Lilian Omolo. The case involves the loss of 167 million shillings, and all suspects pleaded not guilty to the charges. NTV's Seth Olale starts our bulletin with the latest details on this case from the Milimani Law Courts.
There are a total of 38 suspects implicated in the NYS 2 Cluster 3 case, out of which 30 are accused of conspiracy to commit an offence of corruption by defrauding the National Youth Service a total of 167 million shillings between 6th April 2016 and 13th May 2017. In the second count, former Youth Affairs and Gender Principal Secretary Lilian Omolo is charged with abuse of office contrary to Section 48 of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act. She is accused of using a position to improperly confer a benefit to Fastlink Supplies Limited by unlawfully authorizing payments of 115 million shillings between 20th September 2016 and 17th February 2017 at the State Department of Public Service and Youth. Omolo is also alleged to have unlawfully used her office to improperly confer a benefit to Armored Trade Limited by unlawfully authorizing payment of 28 million shillings between 20th September 2016 and 22nd March 2017 at the State Department of Public Service and Youth. The former Youth Affairs PS is also accused of unlawfully using a position as the Ministerial Accounting Officer to improperly confer a benefit to Catherine Wanjiku Mwai, trading as Kunjiwa Enterprises, by unlawfully authorizing payment of 23 million shillings between 20th September 2016 and 13th May 2017 at the State Department of Public Service and Youth.
You know, this is a case of public interest, and it would be in the interest of justice if we are to proceed as scheduled.
Former Director General at the National Youth Service, Richard Ndubai, was charged with abuse of office contrary to Section 46, as read with Section 48 of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act of No. 3 of 2003. He is accused of using his position as the NYS DG to improperly confer a benefit to Fastlink Supplies Limited by unlawfully authorizing payment of 72 million shillings between 20th September 2016 and 17th February 2017. Dubai is also accused of using his authority to improperly confer a benefit to Army Trade Limited by unlawfully authorizing payment of 28 million shillings between 20th September 2016 and 22nd March 2017. In addition, the former Director General is alleged to have used his office to improperly confer a benefit to Catherine Wanjiku Mwai, trading as Kunjiwa Enterprises, by unlawfully authorizing payments of 23 million shillings between 20th September 2016 and 13th May 2017. The case was adjourned to Tuesday, 12 February 2019, after the prosecution led by Senior Assistant Director of Public Prosecution, Mercy Gateru, requested the Anti-Corruption Court to start the main hearing in the absence of 4 accused persons alleged to be on the run. Senior Principal Magistrate Lucas Onina will give a ruling on the request that was opposed by defense lawyers. The main hearing of the NYS 2 Cluster 3 case will formally begin upon the announcement of the prosecution statement, but this will wait for the court's ruling on Tuesday. Seth Olale, NTV at the Milimani Law Courts, Nairobi County.
Staying with court matters, activist Okiya Omtatah has moved to court seeking to have the Employment and Labour Relations Court quash 2 Gazette notices issued last week in which hundreds of appointments were made to various state corporations. Omtatah's petition comes at a time when the Cabinet Secretary for ICT has revoked the appointment of Jared Odoyo Kwaga, a graft suspect, to the board of the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication. This brings to the fore once more the question on sustainability and capability of some of these appointments.
In his petition, activist Okiya Omtatah argues that the appointing authorities, in this case the President and the Cabinet Secretaries, were in contempt of court in their appointments. Okiya refers to a ruling in January in which the court ruled in his favor on a petition he filed in 2016.
The court agreed with me that appointments must be made in a competitive manner, and it made the judgment on 31st of January this year. Surprisingly, on 4th of February and on 8th of February, that's less than 10 days, within a span of less than 10 days, we're getting hundreds of people being appointed to these procedures in total defiance of what the court had pronounced itself on.
Omtatah says the principle of merit is often flouted by the appointing authorities.
I'll give an example of merit. If you are doing an examination, everyone is allowed to apply to do the examination. Then you come up with a tool for grading. It's like an interview process. You come up with a tool for grading the competence of the various persons. You grade also their suitability based on other measures like gender and regional diversity. And then you get the best. So there's actually a process.
The inclusion of politicians, most of who lost in the 2017 elections, in the list of appointees is also being challenged. Former Mwingi Central Member of Parliament, Joe Mutambo, and Machakos Governor candidate Wavinya Ndeti are among loyalists being rewarded.
There's a general perception among the public that many of these appointments are done idiosyncratically, which means at the personal discretion and unaccountable whim of the appointing authority.
If you look at the list right now, it is also people who have been rewarded to appoint their cronies. You can see whose cronies these are, whose cronies those are, whose cronies the other people are.
Then there is the question of integrity. The reason ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru has revoked the appointment of Jared Kwaga to the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication Board. Mr. Kwaga is a key suspect in the alleged looting of 2 billion shillings from Migori County coffers.
Let people be capable and suitable, not just capable, but also suitable. That's why I bring in the question of Chapter 6. There's suitability and there's ability. So they should be capable and be suitable. And that can only happen where the process is transparent.
Omtatah's petition, filed under certificate of urgency, will be heard by Lady Justice Helen Wasilwa on Wednesday. Edmund Nyabola, NTV.
And that report informs our opinion count question tonight. We ask, should election losers be appointed to government jobs? Should election losers be appointed to government jobs? Send us your text to 20686. That number is toll free. You can also tweet us on @NTV Kenya and @Burrows, and we shall sample some of your feedback in the course of the broadcast. More than 200 million worth of fake tenders have been discovered in Trans Nzoia. This follows an intense verification process of tender documents in the health sector following a report which cited corruption in the sector. Speaking during the Speaking during the flag-off of medical equipment worth 35 million to health facilities, Trans Nzoia Deputy Governor Stanley Tarus said his government is working with investigation organs to put an end to the menace. He has issued a stern warning to county officials who have been swindling taxpayers in suspect deals which engage the use of proxies.
We know there are a lot of fake pending bills in health, up to around 200 million. Alafu mtu anataka ulipe hewa. Surely, how do you go and pay without verifying? I think those are the people fighting back. They want us to pay for things that were not even supplied to the health hospital. So we are trying to streamline.
Police are yet to make contact with Humphrey Kariuki Ndegwa, the billionaire at the center of investigations by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, Kenya Bureau of Standards and the Kenya Revenue Authority over alleged tax evasion and manufacturing of substandard alcohol. The businessman, who is reportedly out of the country, is yet to formally get in touch with investigators who have indicated that he is a wanted man. NTV's Ken Mijungu reports that this is not the first time Humphrey Kariuki is involved in a mega scandal.
The 61-year-old Humphrey Kariuki Ndegwa has built his business empire steadily over the past 4 decades. His personal life, aside from the fact that he loves nature, is shrouded in mystery, but his empire speaks for itself. The first business that many can identify him with is the Green Corner restaurant, a popular spot for professionals during years gone by. He boasts ownership of a number of companies with interests globally under the Jonas Continental Group. According to the Forbes magazine in 2017, his interests are listed to include high-end shopping mall The Hub in Karen, which hosts major international brands, Africa Spirit Limited, which has been ranked as a market leader in the manufacturing of alcoholic drinks, Wines of the World, an exclusive distributor of alcoholic products, Dalby Petroleum, which he uses to distribute oil in East Africa, Great Lakes Africa Energy based in the United Kingdom, which operates power projects in Southern Africa, Fairmount Kenya Safari Club, and Mount Kenya Wildlife Conservancy, an animal orphanage. His net worth is unknown, but business magazine Forbes estimated it to be billions. All that wealth is now under scrutiny, with allegations that he may have denied the Kenya Revenue Authority up to 10 billion shillings in taxes. The billionaire was linked to money laundering claims at the collapsed Charterhouse Bank after his company had an unusual deposit of 2 billion shillings in their account. The money was frozen on request by the central bank on suspicion that the businessman and his company were acting as conduits for money laundering. The account was later unfrozen, giving him access to the funds he claimed were part of a huge foreign investment in the country. Kariuki was also put under investigations after his activities attracted the attention of the anti-narcotic police unit over huge transfers. WikiLeaks, the online whistleblowing site, listed his suspicious activities, which was suspected to be laundering of the proceeds of illegal trade and crime. An attempt to have an exclusive distributorship of 7 imported alcoholic products, however, was thwarted by the Competition Authority of Kenya after it determined this could have given him market dominance over his competitors. Last week on Thursday, a raid at his Thika-based company netted 312,000 litres of illicit liquor believed to have been smuggled and 21 million fake Kenya Revenue Authority stamps. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
Police are investigating the disappearance of Caroline Mwatha Ochieng, a human rights activist from Dandora Estate who went missing on Thursday last week. Caroline had gone to drop off her daughter at school, but since then, her whereabouts remain unknown. NTV's Sharon Baranga reports.
At the Dandora Community Justice Center in Nairobi County, human rights activists, together with residents of this estate, are about to gather for a vigil specially arranged for Caroline Mwatha Ochieng, a human rights activist who went missing on Thursday after she took her daughter to school.
That was the last time there was contact, because the daughter said she did not come back to pick her, so she had to find her way home.
Wilfred, Caroline's colleague, says the mother of 2 has never reported having received threats to her life. But as an organization, they have been receiving threats.
Caro was a key monitor on human rights violation, especially police killings and police brutality cases.
The disappearance of Caroline was reported on Friday at Buruburu Police Station.
From Friday, staff from Dandora Community Justice Center, the residents, and other organizations teamed up to form 6 groups that have been going about in search of Caroline Mwatha, who went missing on Thursday. So far they've been able to visit a number of police stations, a number of hospitals, mortuaries, but up to now, Caroline is yet to be found.
Amnesty's International Kenya Executive Director Irungu Hilton says, and I quote, "We are deeply concerned about the whereabouts of Caroline Mwatha, as up to now we have no information. We are appealing to the DCI and National Police Service to accelerate all efforts to find Caroline and bring her safely home." End of quote. Caroline's family and friends are hoping they will find her soon and in good health. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Nurses under the national government, more specifically the Ministry of Health, have joined in what is shaping up to be a countrywide strike. The nurses claim that they have been ignored by the government as far as promotions are concerned and the implementation of the return to work formula that was agreed on after the 2017 nurses strike. Charity Mwangi reports on the deteriorating state of affairs in the health sector.
8 days after the commencement of the nurses' strike in most of the county hospitals and health centers, their colleagues in the national government have joined in the fight.
We are supposed to be given that special nurses allowance because of working overtime, working over the holidays, working weekends, working night shift from 6 to 6.
Wenzetu ambao wako kwenye county washapromotiwa. In fact, mara mbili zaidi yetu, sisi tumebaki tu pale pale.
The low numbers in this low-key industrial action tell of the little bargaining power that they have in convincing the government to prioritize their needs. They, however, say that this is a reflection of the shortage of nurses that the government continues to ignore.
We would like the government to commence with immediate effect staff audit in the national government to ascertain that there are 1,200 nurses with the shortage that we are experiencing. Yes. People have retired, people have died, and there is no replacement.
The nurses serve in the National Spinal Injury Hospital, the National Blood Bank, Mathare National Hospital, and Ports Health Services. Meanwhile, the strike continues in the counties, with nurses in Kirinyaga officially commencing theirs. This, regardless of the government's appeal through the Salaries and Remuneration Commission that there is no money to increase their salaries.
Kuja huku Kerugoya kwa ajili ya kutibiwa mtoto wangu meningitis, na sasa kwa saa hii nimebakisha siku 4 na sijui kutoka saa hii nitaenda wapi.
Sasa nauliza kama mombi wa Iguru hata waongezea msahara, nani ataangalia watoto wetu?
In West Pokot County, the nurses' spirited fight continues from last week, despite threats made by Governor John Lonyangapuo that he would withhold their salaries if they do not resume duty.
Taka hii profession iheshimiwe kama vile tunaheshimu humanity.
In Embu County, the situation is the same. Over 600 nurses chose to keep away from work, leaving the Level 5 hospital a ghost town. Their pleas have finally reached lawmakers who now demand that counties, alongside the Ministry of Health, sort out the mess in the health sector.
Sometimes asking for a good working environment is not asking for too much. Asking to get an extra pair of uniform so that even you work, you are comfortable. Some of them have outgrown their uniforms and they have not been replaced. It is just some simple things that we can be able to do and stop the strike.
The irony of the whole situation is that the Ministry of Health has been engaged in talks to resolve the crisis in the counties. Little did they know that the nurses under the national government were feeling ignored as their colleagues in the counties reap all the benefits. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
One of Kenya's most riveting crime stories in recent times is developing into a thrilling tale of whodunit. Did a man order the killing of his wife, or was the sick plot orchestrated from beginning to end by his mistress? Police believe they have hit the jackpot, and it's not what everyone thought. Get a copy of the Daily Nation tomorrow and follow the twists and turns in the murder investigation of Mary Wamboi as our special correspondents reveal where the police place her husband Joseph Kori and his girlfriend Judy Wangui in the whole scheme of things. I, for one, am certainly interested in getting myself a copy of the Daily Nation tomorrow. Now, to parliamentary matters. Parliament is resuming tomorrow, and our reporter Kennedy Mureithi was in Parliament today as he sought to know what will be prioritized. Kennedy, what's in store, and are we looking at a packed first day?
Well, Parliament resumes to a full entry, and the first order will be reconstituting committees, starting with the House Business Committee, which is the most important, and that is tasked with coming up with the House's calendar and also the order paper. Then at that particular time also, the committees follow. They have to also reconstitute the committees, as it is an integral part where the Parliament actually works on. Then the political parties have, however, not shown so much interest in changing the membership of the committees, in probably with an exception of a few. The most critical piece to all this to be considered is the budget policy statement, which would take at least up to June, when the budget is expected to be read. And I do not want to water so much of that, because I know my colleague Julian Amboko has a special report on the budget policy statement, which he will be giving us later. But then also there is the issue of the Embrace Women. There is the 2/3 gender bill that now seeks, and Parliament seeks to prioritize it, where they do say that they have not been receiving support from their male colleagues. And women said that they want to abandon the parliamentary route and actually go to the Building Bridges team. But also, as we saw today, is that the leader of majority, Aden Duale, now says that this is not their bill and it has to come through Parliament because it is his bill, and he is really looking towards making sure that this bill passes. He says that the party of Jubilee has expressed instructions that this bill has to pass. But there are also other issues that we really need to look at, and there are bills that have been pending at the Senate, and they will be forwarded to the National Assembly. These are such as the Petroleum Bill, the Land Index Bill, the Irrigation Bill, and the Roads Bill. There was also actually something that President Uhuru Kenyatta, when he met the leadership of both the National Assembly and the Senate, he actually cautioned them against having these bills for quite a long time, and he is insisting that these things have to be passed. And also, the leadership of Senate came under sharp scrutiny over the staying of with these bills for quite some time. And we also see that also in this session, we'll be expecting that the President Kenyatta will be making known a date when he will be giving a State of the Nation address and outlining the government's agenda. Every year, the President has an opportunity to address Parliament as espoused in the Constitution, and also he wants to make sure that probably what will we be looking at. He'll be giving a comprehensive report on what he would like Parliament to do with regards to the Big Four agenda, and what he would want, the kind of monies that he would want set aside so as to actualize this. Remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta has called on politicians and also the cabinet not to politic and focus on the Big Four agenda. So we will be looking to see what is this that President Uhuru Kenyatta will be telling Parliament with regards to the Big Four, and also the handshake and how it has helped to shape this country in what we are doing at this particular time. We'll be looking at all this, Olive, and probably President Uhuru Kenyatta and Parliament, we do expect that it is going to be an interesting year for it, and probably interesting in the sense that probably they will be keeping away the politics that they have been showcasing, and actually working towards realization of what Kenyans want them to do. Back to you, Olive.
Thank you, Kennedy. Kennedy will remain with that story. He will be at the opening tomorrow. Now, staying again with Parliamentary Matters, the Jubilee Party is set to remove Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria from all committees he's in as parliamentary committees are reconstituted starting tomorrow. The party says his continued disregard for rules and regulations and his New Year outburst against President Uhuru Kenyatta on Mount Kenya's development record put him at a crossroads with the ruling coalition. Kuria is among MPs targeted as political parties flex their muscles. NTV's political affairs reporter, and who do you know who that is? Kennedy Mureithi with those details.
This particular broadcast.
Among the first agendas Parliament will be dealing with as members resume from a 2-month recess is the reconstitution of committees, which is key to its working. In their reconstitution, political parties have a say in who is recommended to what committee. This time round, the main political outfits in the House, Jubilee and NASA, are keen on punishing errant members who, according to them, have refused to toe the party line. In Jubilee, Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria is a targeted man, as he is said to be kicked out of 2 committees he serves in. National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale says Kuria has gone against the party's tenets and should be punished.
One of the most cardinal thing in our party is to maintain discipline. Discipline within our members, discipline for party leadership, and discipline to the party constitution. So Honorable Moses Kuria was out of order, in my opinion.
Duale says the Jubilee Party has indicated it will be writing to the House over the MP's conduct, especially as he ushered in the new year, where he outrightly called out the president, accusing him of neglecting the Mount Kenya region on matters development.
We will not allow members of our party, who the party has invested in them, who won seats because of our party, to demean the character and the institution of the presidency.
Moses Kuria says the impending ouster does not bother him. In a conversation with NTV, Kuria said, "I did not go to the people to campaign for Vice Chair of Roads Committee or to be a member of the Budget Committee. We serve at the pleasure of the party. They can remove me at any time as long as they follow the right procedure. I do not gain anything from serving in those committees. I only serve the people. I cannot be the loser in this situation. My record for wanting to help the country is clear, and I am willing to pay the ultimate price for standing with my people."
Which action we will take will be an action that you will maybe know when I talk to the party Secretary General and the whips.
Malindi MP Aisha Jumwa and Msambweni MP Suleiman Dori may face the same music as the ODM party has expressly said it no longer wants anything to do with them. The party has indicated it will be expelling them. At the House Business Committee, the NASA coalition has ejected Emuhaya MP Omboko Milemba and replaced him with nominated MP Godfrey Osotsi. Political parties that have large representation within Parliament now say that the issue on discipline will be taken seriously, as they will not allow any errant member to go against what the party believes. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV at Parliament Buildings.
Well, remember, our opinion count question tonight is, should election losers be appointed to government jobs? We have Kadharua here who says, no, no, no. Mr. President should stop PR and appoint big brains, achana na political ancestors. Peter Kusimba says, is of the same mind. He says parastatals can perform well if appointments of chair and members of the board of management are based on ability of appointees to understand their mandate and the technical demands of the parastatals. How do you chair or contribute to agendas whose details sound Greek? And Solomon Ambuku could trip me up with the word he's used here. He says, no, these election losers and sycophants whom you can trace to their benefactors are idiosyncratically appointed. Can we be faulted for calling them charlatans? More on that after this break. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with NTV Tonight. A family in Matunda within Kakamega is up in arms against a private hospital for what it terms as a medical negligence that resulted in the amputation of their child's leg. But the management of Matunda Maternity Care insists that due process had been followed in trying to straighten the baby's left foot that had a slight deformity. Our reporter Gabriel Kudaka has those details.
Nilishangaa maana mguu wa mtoto ulikatwa hii sehemu ya nyuma kuanzia kwa magoti, katwa nyama yote katoka. Kakuja pande nyingine akachonga nyama ikatoka, na huku chini pia akachonga nyama ikatoka.
Nilipokata hivi nikifunua nione shida iko wapi. Nikitoa hivi kumbe natoa na hiyo waya wa mguu wote ukatoka tu nikiwa natoa hivi.
Parents in agony at seeing their baby lose a leg, all in attempt to have it straightened. They claim the very people entrusted to provide a solution at Matunda Maternity Care ended up causing permanent damage.
Sasa akaambia mama kwamba arudi huko baada ya siku 14. Akisharudi huko baada ya siku 14, alafu amfunge bandage. Akishamfunga bandage, hiyo mguu itarudi polepole mpaka ifike ile position ambayo inastahili.
The persistent cry of pain by the baby forced the parents to revisit the health facility to have the problem sorted out.
Katuambia damu haifiki huko mbele the lower limb yote imekwisha. So wakasema kwamba the only best thing watafanya ni kukata mguu.
Baby Seth will never get back his leg due to what his parents refer to as negligence. All his family is yearning for is justice. Back at Matunda Maternity Care, the clinical officer who attended to the baby said there was nothing alarming and that due process was followed while handling the situation.
That you shouldn't be worried. There is something that is medically can be corrected and the child will be okay.
Gabriel Kudaka, NTV.
In Addis Ababa, President Uhuru Kenyatta has called for unity among African leaders in ensuring the continent retains its current status as a new frontier of global economic growth and prosperity. He was speaking at a joint meeting with African heads of state and leaders in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, on the sidelines of the ongoing 32nd summit of the African Union.
President Uhuru Kenyatta held a meeting with the African leaders on Africa's growth and sustainability. President Kenyatta emphasized the need for Africa to unite for a common purpose in investment, collaboration and cooperation.
The result of this common struggle is an Africa that is integrating and will be the great frontier of global economic growth and prosperity in the near future. For this upward surge to be sustained for generations to come, it demands that we be united.
The meeting also sought to inspire a global conversation geared towards reconciliation and reconnection of all Africans as the world marks the 400th anniversary of the transatlantic slave trade. President Kenyatta said all Africans have a common cultural heritage and historical experience.
Even as we commemorate the transatlantic slave trade, we also, on the eastern side of the continent, recall the Indian Ocean slave trade that was just as ruinous. In parts of Asia and the Middle East today live many of Africa's descendants who in some instances continue to suffer the effects of slavery and its evil social and racial hierarchies. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, despite these generations of misfortunes, we are still here today, still striving to make up lost time and lost ground.
He has also called upon practical steps and the full engagement of the AU Commission to ensure workable and clear programs are put in place to actualize the new initiative.
Kabazi MCA Peter Mbai and 8 other suspects were today charged in a Nakuru court with incitement, arson and malicious damage to property in Solai. Mbai, who appeared before Principal Magistrate Bernard Mararo, was charged with inciting youth to burn and destroy property worth 7 million, which belonged to the Patel Coffee Estate. The accused pleaded not guilty to the charges. Mbai and 5 other suspects were later released on a bond of 1 million shillings with a surety of a similar amount or an alternative cash bail of 500,000 shillings. 2 other suspects were released on a 200,000 shilling bond with an alternative cash bail of 100,000 shillings. Mbai, who has been vocal on the compensation of victims of the Salai Dam tragedy that occurred on May the 9th, 2018, was arrested on January 30th following violent protests that rocked the area after a planned meeting between Solai residents and the Kenya Human Rights Commission officials was cancelled. The case will be mentioned on February the 14th, which so happens to be Valentine's Day. Time now for a break, but we'll be back shortly with more of your views on our opinion count question today.
evening and welcome to NTV Business. My name is Dan Mwangi. Let's begin in the farms. With only 1 month left to the start of the planting season, it is now imagined that the National Treasury is yet to release the 4.3 billion shillings needed to procure subsidized fertilizer. Agriculture CS Mwangi Kionjori told Parliament that even though his ministry has already been cleared to use special procurement procedures, the process cannot continue because there is no money to buy the fertilizer.
Because the required funds have not yet been provided for by the National Treasury. Subsequently, the ministry invited the fertilizer importers and dealers in Kenya for deliberation of their preparedness to supply fertilizer to farmers for the long lanes. At that meeting, the companies confirmed that they have capacity to supply enough fertilizer for the long lanes season, so long as they were assured that the government was not importing and that clearances at the port is fast-tracked.
Now, Parliament resumes tomorrow with review of the budget policy statement being one of the key agenda items in its entry. The National Treasury made public the draft budget policy statement on January 10th, 2019, with a view to incorporating feedback from the public. Julian Samboko takes a look at some of the issues bound to shape debate in Parliament.
Ambitious expenditure plans in the face of unmet revenue targets is one of the defining features of Kenya's budget-making process. In the draft budget policy statement for 2019, the National Treasury projects mobilization of 2.1 trillion shillings in revenue, despite having been compelled to revise its targets downwards for the previous year by 5%. This has necessitated a rallying call for a reality check amongst some legislators.
More than ever before, this budget will not be an ambitious budget, in my opinion. It must be a budget that is very realistic, and that the projections themselves must be very realistic based on what is happening now in terms of revenue.
Besides revenue, Parliament will be hard-pressed to check on the planned expenditure as the government aims to check on its appetite for debt. This comes even as the country's debt rose to an estimated 5.3 trillion shillings as at the start of February 2019, with the domestic debt accounting for 49%. Division of revenue between the national and county governments is also poised to be an issue of heated debate, with the draft budget policy statement providing for a 1.3% reduction in funds designated for the devolved units in the coming financial year. Some legislators have decried this provision, terming it retrogressive.
The principle has been, since 2013, that money going to counties must increase incrementally. There must be an increment because the functions have increased, population is increasing, services are increasing.
The Parliament is often accused of being lackluster in its oversight of the budget-making process. Starting tomorrow, all eyes will be on the Parliament as it begins looking into the budget policy statement of 2019. Julian Samboko, NTV.
Kenol Kobil's shares worth 850.6 million shillings were traded by financial analyst Ali Khan Sachu between September 21st and October 23rd, 2018, just a day before information on the proposed takeover by Rubis Energy was made public, according to an affidavit filed by at the Chief Magistrate's Court in Nairobi. Ali Khan Sachu, who is an agent of brokerage firm Kestrel Capital, purchased 56.8 million shares at an average price of 14 shillings and 97 cents. Given the offer price of 23 shillings per share by Rubis Energy, Sachu was set to book 455 million shillings in profit through selling the shares to the French firm. The affidavit filed before the court includes an annex with WhatsApp correspondence with Ali Khan Sachu, which Ali Khan Sachu shared information on the deal and sought a 50-50 split in the profits realized from selling Kenol Kobil shares with the client. The Capital Markets Authority has been investigating possible insider trading on Kenol Kobil shares ahead of the planned takeover made public in October 2018. For more on this story, get your copy of the Business Daily tomorrow and get more details. Tea farmers in Kenya earned 140 billion shillings for their crop last year, recording the highest earnings registered in the last 5 years. The performance was boosted by high volumes that defied low international prices of the beverage, in the market. Now, production reached a high of 474 million kilograms in 2018 compared to the volume harvested in 2017. Lillian Kiariet reports that despite the high performance last year, the Directorate is predicting lower earnings this year.
Favorable weather conditions experienced in tea-growing areas during the first half of last year saw the performance of the beverage surge. Kenyan tea recorded a 12% increase last year compared to 439 million kilograms recorded in 2017 and 473 million kilograms in 2016. Smallholder farmers increased their output by 10%, registering 272 million kilograms, which translates to 55%, while the estate subsector recorded a 13% increase and stood at 220 million kilograms, translating to 45%. The price of tea at the Mombasa auction has been on a decline since June 2017, when it stood at 230 shillings per kilogram to hit a 4-year low at the moment. In the weekly trading held last week at the Mombasa auction, a kilogram of processed tea on average fetched 200 shillings, down from 270 shillings on average in the corresponding period last year. Local sales are also expected to grow by 5% to 40 million kilograms, boosting the domestic earnings from the beverage to 18 billion shillings compared with 16 billion shillings earned last year. The Tea Directorate is, however, predicting that the production volumes and export volumes for the first quarter of 2019 are expected to drop slightly compared to the same period of 2018. The Directorate forecasts that the volumes will this year drop to 416 million kilos from a high of 474 million kilos realized last year. The decline will see the average auction price rise to 280 shillings a kilo, up from 260 shillings achieved in 2018.
The Kenya Tea Development Agency has warned farmers to brace for lower earnings this year. It is attributing this performance to depressed rainfall conditions which were experienced late last year. Lillian Kiarie, NTV Business.
The Anti-Counterfeit Agency, that's ACA, has revealed plans to introduce stickers that authenticate products as legally certified in a bid to counter illicit trade, which is said to deny the economy over 200 billion shillings in annual revenues. Now here's Alex Mwangi with the ACA's latest strategy to combat the multifaceted vice that is entrenched in the Kenyan society.
The Anti-Counterfeit Agency has so far seized goods worth 2.1 billion shillings and destroyed goods worth 612 million shillings, with the goods destroyed being close to a third of those seized. The fight against illicit trade is now a multi-agency affair. Out of 1,364 intellectual property rights complaints that ACA has received, it has investigated 1,122.
People like going to China because they've been able to give those cheap goods. Unfortunately, then we go to China to counterfeit. But you can go and build your own brand. And you're starting to see people now saying, I have a cosmetic line in my name.
We've mentioned about online counterfeiting, which is a major emerging area now. And certainly these are some of the areas we want to engage with the judiciary upon.
According to the Anti-Counterfeit Agency, 70% of Kenyans have purchased counterfeit goods. Of those, 19% bought the goods knowingly, with the rest totally unaware that they were promoting unscrupulous traders.
We are going to come out with an identification mark, more like how KEBS have an identification mark around counterfeit. And we are also going to a system that they are calling recordation. So we are going to start recording everybody's IP, and ideally we want to have that power available to the public.
The idea to introduce identification marks will, however, have to overcome the twin challenges of acceptance by local players and the arduous task of public dissemination of how the marks work if it is to become successful in reducing the country's loss of revenue to illicit products. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
Well, business, myself, both done, but I leave you with financials. Have yourself a good night.
NTV Financial Report in association with the University of Nairobi. NTV Financial Report in association with the University of Nairobi. Apply online through applications.uonbi.ac.ke and be the first.
Thank you for keeping it NTV Tonight. A career in teaching is known to take one's time, especially in ensuring that students come first. However, the skill of multitasking is what a 28-year-old teacher in Taita Taveta is thriving on. Jimmy Michigan is not just your ordinary teacher, he is also a professional DJ in Voi Town. On this week's My Job segment, NTV's Bill Otieno sought to find out how Jimmy juggles the two careers.
By day, you will find 28-year-old Jimmy Michigan at his formal official place of employment, dispatching knowledge to the young ones. But when the night falls, his title changes from Jimmy to DJ Dollar Papi.
As a teacher, I started back then when I went to college after high school. I was still doing DJing, but I went to teaching as a course. And still, even when I was doing teaching, I used to still do entertainment partly. So when I completed my course, I went and started working as a teacher in a school around the coast. And from there now, I continued also to develop the other side of being a DJ.
Jimmy believed both his unique skill set will help him accomplish his life goals of creating change in the lives of those he interacts with. Every evening after classes, you will find him in a studio where he hosts a show at one of the local radio stations.
Immediately after teaching at around 5, I switch from now teaching, I leave down the chalks, and now I go to preparation of the show at night. So I rush up to the station, I go and connect my stuff, I get ready, then I perform. So mostly the hours don't mingle. They are separate because the one is during the day and the other one is during the night.
He knows that success doesn't come easy. He says he has fallen many times, but he always finds his way up.
So how did you start? Actually, developing the business is the main challenge, because for you to grow from one level in the business to the next level, or maybe if I should call it the pay from one level to another, then that means you must develop equipment-wise, techniques, and brandings and much more. So it is a little bit challenging because it takes a lot of investment and also a lot of sacrifice.
It is his determination that keeps him going both in and out of the class and studio. Bill Otieno, NTV, Voi.
Sports news with myself after this break. goals scored in today's 3 Kenya Premier League games. Mount Kenya FC's encouraging run of results was halted by KCB as Awendo and Afraha stadiums played host to 2 stalemates. Ida Weringa with more.
Ulinzi Stars continued their dismal home form, this time with a 1-1 draw against Western Stima. Stima's David Ojwang opened the scoring in the 2nd minute when he turned Kucing's long throw into the net. Dunstan Nyaudo's Chargers were dominated at home and had to wait deep into the 2nd half for an equalizer, Kucing salvaging a point at Afraha with barely seconds on the clock remaining. Ulinzi lie 12th on the log while Western Stima are 6th. At the Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos, visitors KCB beat Mount Kenya United 2-0 to bring to a pause Melis Meadows' recently found form that had seen his Chargers register impressive results, including wins against Mathare United and AFC Leopards. Omwenga scored in the 18th minute by turning in a corner that had been floated into the box by Victor Omondi. Collins Wendo doubled the lead for the Bankers in the 2nd half to effectively put it beyond reach. Mount Kenya United continued their stay at 17th, while KCB occupied 10th position.
We've won without struggling so much. We've won other games, but we've had to defend with our lives at the end. So I'm very happy in the manner in which we have won. I think it was comfortable at the end, though it's my feeling that we can win a bigger margin because I think we lost too many chances.
In the day's other result, Sony Sugar and Chemelil Sugar played out to a 0-0 draw at Awendo. Ida Weringa, NTV.
Kenya's Eric Kiptanui beat Ethiopia's Abebe Dagefa in a sprint finish over the final kilometer to clinch the Barcelona half-marathon title. The men's race didn't feature pacemakers, so the usual fight against the clock and hunt for a quick time never materialized. The 28-year-old Kenyan used his high-altitude training to overtake the Ethiopians in the closing meters to break the tape in 1 hour, 1 minute and 44 seconds. Meanwhile, Kenya's best finisher in the women's race was Sally Chepyego, who came in 3rd behind the Ethiopian duo of a 21-year-old. In the Ministry of Sports. Wario, now the Kenya ambassador to Austria, was arraigned and charged over his role in the mismanagement of funds for the team that represented Kenya at the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio, Brazil. Along with abuse of office charges, the former CS is accused of improperly conferring a benefit to 6 individuals by financing their travel to Rio, causing a loss of public funds amounting to over 5.8 million shillings. The prosecution is in connection to the misappropriation of 55 million shillings in relation to the games. The alleged misappropriation took place when Wario and Ekai were serving as sports cabinet secretary and principal secretary respectively. Presiding Magistrate Douglas Ogoti ordered for the hearing of the case to commence on the 1st of March. The Nairobi Open wheelchair tennis store opened its gates today at the Nairobi Club. The 3-day outdoor clay tournament, which is part of the International Tennis Federation, features both singles and doubles competitions. Kenya's Caleb Odio qualified for the next round after beating Nigeria's Wilson Mende in straight sets, as Collins Omondi overcame a spirited fight back from fellow Kenyan Peter Munene to take it in 3 sets. Odio eventually lost to Wasiu Yusuf from Nigeria 1-6, 2-6 in the men's first quarter-final. In the ladies category, Asia Mohammed from Kenya beat Ghanaian Bridget Narte 6-love, 6-love. She will face Emanuela Mok from France in the quarters tomorrow. Kenya's Jane Ndenga also advanced to the next stage after cruising past Rahela Koth. The tournament also serves as a warm-up for the BNP World Team Cup African qualifiers. A reminder of our opinion count question tonight. We asked, should election losers be appointed to government jobs? And as you can see, the responses are numerous. We have Travis who says nothing is wrong with that, as long as they have what it takes for the job. Chebo is of a different mind. He says, big no, Kenyans have rejected them, yet the government is forcing them to lead us. I do not support it. Fred Tunya says, yes, if they are young and qualified. And there are many more responses. You can visit at NTV Kenya to see what they all are. Mixed yes and no. What's your opinion? If you haven't shared it, do not forget the handle is at NTV Kenya. Mine is at Olive Burrows. Now, coming up next is Mark Masai on Press Pass. And already on set with him, I can see Masharia Guy, though. There is